Noir thriller fits into the psychological thriller subcategory within the genre, and it has horror themes, although these are not explicitly shown within the opening. Psychological thrillers are a subgenre of thriller, which is a very broad ranged genre. The suggestion of mental illness in our film, especially within a child, isn't a concept used in many thrillers. Although some cult films refer to mental illness, for example Donnie Darko, which follows the story of a teenager with schizophrenia. This is often a taboo subject and is difficult to accurately portray on screen, so most filmmakers tend to not address these issues. We used a lot of inspiration from real media, especially Donnie Darko, which also uses a non-linear narrative. We used inspiration from this film as it's a cult film, which was initially not very successful, but was re-released and became one of the most famous films because of its references to issues not usually used.
We especially like this shot because of its seamless opening of panning stuff. Our media product represents several social groups. The character relationships are of the family and would connect particularly well with the fears of parental care. Although our protagonist is a child, we are not aiming our product at the younger generation, so we do not believe it to be age appropriate. The setting of our product would be most relatable to Americans. It takes place in a small suburban town, the exact origin unknown.
The kind of institution that would probably distribute this film would be like a small independent institution, because it's a low budget film with little unknown actors, and yes.
We're hoping to, as a British film, we have to take in consideration that there aren't very many purely British run film institutions anymore, but most of them lean on a bigger American chain, which would be very interested in the commercial value of our film, which our film isn't.
Donnie Darko and Juno were also produced by smaller companies. We didn't take inspiration from Juno for our thriller, but we had reproduced the opening earlier in the year to develop our technical skills.
The audience we would aim our product at would be anyone from the age of 15 and over. I do not believe our film would be suitable for the mainstream, but for more the alternative audience. However, there have been many recent and popular thrillers produced, such as Woman in Black. An ideal audience would be of all ages and all statistics. We are interested in the concept of the silver audience, as pensioners have had a large increase in recent years.
So we already have an interest in this genre of film, and as Katie said, it's for teenagers and adults rather than younger generation, because they'd probably be influenced or scared by it.
We learned a lot about the technology in both filming and editing techniques in film production. Although we previously had reasonable experience with using video cameras, we didn't have much experience with filming, and through initial research we were educated about different angles and vocabulary and filming techniques. The real educational turning point was when we reproduced the opening of Juno. However, we have come a long way since then, and we now all have a reasonable level of skill. We're
better at planning and storyboarding before we did our actual film.
Yeah, we didn't realise how much preliminary planning there was involved with making a film initially, so Juno was very educational in this respect. We had to make
would attract our audience because I think we have a complex storyline with developed themes,
um, we use mostly young characters. Although the audience we're aiming at would definitely not be young children, especially because the film requires a lot of interpretation from the audience, as well as we didn't explicitly show things like the narrative going back in time, so that would...
We tried to leave everything quite ambiguous, so there are several different readings you could interpret as the audience. So it could be a supernatural story, it could be a realistic story where the girl simply has like a mental disorder, it could be haunting, it could actually be like a child that wanted to kill the other child. But it's up for the audience to decide, which we thought was quite important.
like that idea.
We made mistakes during the initial filming. For example, we left a scene too late to film, so it was dark in the room, and we had moved a lamp, which obviously caused continuity problems. However, I think even though we went back and refilmed it, these changes aren't drastic, but I think that the storyline is more clear this way than how it was originally written, which would require a lot more interpretation. Even though leaving a film really ambiguous is effective, like for example Donnie Darko, which needs a lot of thinking involved and is quite difficult to understand, we thought it would be more difficult to show this in just 3 minutes for the opening. We also used a graphic match. We used a toy bear as a kind of graphic match to show the story going back in time, which gets passed between the two characters, which is also helping the audience to understand the time difference. Yeah, I think we're done. Peace.